We hear the term unit studies in homeschooling circles, but what are they and why are they so popular? Today's guest, veteran homeschooling mom Jaydalia Dunne, is here to tell us how and why to create unit studies.
Welcome to Homeschooling Saints, the podcast that helps you create the homeschool you love for the people you love. Our host is Lisa Mladinich, a Catholic life coach, TV host, best-selling author, and an instructor at Homeschool Connections.
Before we get started, remember to subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, click the bell to join our channel. Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa Mladinich, your host, and today it's my pleasure to welcome Jaydalia Dunne to the show to talk about how and why to create unit studies. Jaydalia Dunne is a native New Yorker born to parents from the West Indies. She was raised in New Jersey, but now resides in Pennsylvania with her husband and 4 homeschooled children. She attended a Catholic university and majored in international relations because of her love and interest in the historical, political, and cultural interactions between nations and countries. Prior to becoming a full-time wife and mother, Jay worked for a British bank in New York City. While homeschooling both at home and at their local cooperative is a main enjoyment of her daily life, she also enjoys horticulture, English and Spanish language literature, the fine arts, travel, studying languages, and maintaining language exchange partnerships and friendships abroad. Assisting at the traditional Mass with her family is the anchor of her week that makes all the rest possible. Man, do I relate to that. And we have Jay's email address in the show notes, too, so you can all follow up with this lovely person. Hello and welcome to the program, Jay.
Oh, hi, Lisa. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah. It's good to see you. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this because this is something in the several years that I was homeschooling my only child. I was, trying to climb a greased slide at times, trying to make her experience rich until we discovered other families and all these ways of learning together in multi-layered ways and, just all the really creative stuff other moms were doing. And so I'm just excited to have you tell us a little bit about what a unit study is for those who are just starting out and why it's so valuable in teaching our kids.
Yes. I think the best way of thinking about unit studies is a multidisciplinary approach. Instead of, normally we have it in our heads, we put science in its box, we put math in its box, spelling in its box, everything in its, in its box. And it's a way of weaving it all together as organically as possible. So they kind of plan each other and support each other. And I think it actually enriches each of the subjects in a way. For example, I know for me, I went to traditional schools like most people in the States, and geography was separate from history, and everything was separate from each other. And sometimes not until I became older, did I start to make certain connections like, oh, wait, this was over here happening, or, if I could have seen that on a map, or, languages also, I think they really help each other, the interdisciplinary approach. And also I find, for my kids, it's a little bit more fun and a little less, monotonous, When I started down the homeschool journey, I had it in my head. I just want to do the trivia because that looks so romantic. And I wish I was, educated in that way. There's nothing wrong with the classical approach or trivia or any of all the different manners of homeschooling, like Charlotte Mason, which is more of a literature-based approach, which is easy to incorporate that in unit studies as well. There's Waldorf, there's unschooling, there's all different approaches. So none is really wrong. It's just what works for the child and for the parent, because you don't want to be unmotivated because the child can feed off of that. Because if you're not excited about something, it's hard for them to be excited about something,
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes it more fun for you. You're
Yes.
connecting the dots. You have
Yes.
more range
More
to
varied.
explore. Yeah.
More varied. I mean, I can give an example of, because I do a kind of unit studies approach in our local co-op also, not just at home. So I can give, because maybe just talking it in broad terms would be hard for the audience to know what exactly am I talking about. So let's say, okay, this past week, we learned about Spain in our local co-op. Okay, so I wonder if I have any here.
Yeah, feel free to show us stuff.
Book.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh.
So I put together a laugh book. Okay, this is a laugh book because some people don't. Only I think some homeschoolers.
And for those of you
book.
listening on the podcast, you can go to our YouTube channel to see these. These are really cool visuals, but go right ahead, Jay.
Mm-hmm. So the laugh book it's just a nice visual of putting everything in one spot, something that they can reference later on. So, sometimes when you learn a subject in school, it's in and out. It's in and out, and you're onto something else. And there's nothing physical other than if you were to take notes that's left over that you can go back to. Okay. So a laugh book may have this one will have different little booklets in it. So this one, you can open it up and you see, this one is not completed. This is for a child to complete. They can color in the flag of Spain. Okay.
Nice.
This one has, we could do the population and compare it to the US. Okay. Like a little graphing chart. So there's a little math in there. You have a graphing, right?
Yeah.
You have your little geography. So in this little booklet here, you open up this little laugh book, and who doesn't like little pop-ups? Like when you're a child, you like those little pop-up books. So it's kind of like that,
Yeah.
So, where is Spain? Color it in Europe or on the world,
Yeah,
climate. What's the
nice.
climate? You got a little science involved. Okay. Currency. And one of my sons likes to. You can write what it'll be euros. This is not filled in. One of my sons likes to collect coins, from around the world, and even old coins and $2 bills and things like that. So that's awesome. That connects them also learning about different countries or what is currency. And it's funny, that started for him when I was a little worried in the beginning because he wasn't as quick with math as his older sister was, but children are different,
Mm-hmm.
And what do you know? The thing that really sparked his interest in math was money. So, right?
Whatever gets you there.
Whatever. And then from just counting money, now the 4 operations became nothing to him. He just thought of everything as currency,
Wow.
And even time zones here, we fill in this booklet with time zones, compare it to, if it's 12 o'clock where you live in Eastern Standard Time, what time is it in Madrid? Madrid's the capital. They're my capitals, customs of the country, bullfighting, food. Oh, one of the things I do like to do is do a recipe from a country. So with my class, I brought in some Spanish ham, jamón serrano, and manchego cheese. And then I had a helper bring in olives. Multidisciplinary, using the different senses.
Yes.
Not everything is just read something, write down some notes. That sometimes can be a little dry. Works better when they're older. When they're younger, grab their attention. I'll put a video, preview your videos though first when you get them off of YouTube. A flamenco dancing, right? Nice. So they'll listen to the guitar, they'll see the dancer, art. You can weave in art there's so many things. Just from one topic, there's different things. Art. So we learned about Salvador Dali, who was a Spanish surrealist. And he's known for the dreamlike paintings. Okay. And so I show them some examples, find examples they find like age appropriate to whatever the age you're doing. So some of his famous, iconic drawings would be elephants with very long, skinny legs. I don't know why. Maybe it was a nightmare he had. He's a surrealist painter. So I found a tutorial geared towards children of, we're going to draw Dali's elephants. So then the children try to draw elephants like Dali. And it comes out great too. And then they can watercolor it afterwards. And all of those things start with one topic, Spain. So you got the music, you've got the art, you've got some math, you've got some science, right? They can learn the animals, they can learn about bulls, that's like their symbol. You have the geography. So that's basically what unit studies is. It's drawing all those different disciplines.
Yeah.
And so they're not so separated. And they could do copy work, penmanship. It could be a Spanish song. It could be a poem from a Spanish poet. You could do this with America too. This is very easy. America, like a poet, like copy a poem, copy a prayer, pick a saint from the country. Okay, we could do Saint Teresa of Avila, right? We could do Saint John of the Cross. We could learn about the Santiago de Compostela, right? The pilgrimage.
Yeah.
So you could weave in your faith.
Nice.
Awesome. So that's what unit studies is. And for me, it makes it more interesting for me and the child. And that could take you could spread it over a whole month, right? I mean, you can do all this one day, but it's interesting. I find it interesting. And we've done this with Spain. I've done it with China. It doesn't have to start off with a country. It could be a topic. But a year ago, Disney came out with a movie called Encanto. And my very youngest liked the movie, but he doesn't like to do like sit down like traditional schoolwork as much as my older kids do. But he didn't mind like doing copy work from one of the songs, learning about Colombia, the Amazon rainforest, the animals, So we just
Wow.
He had no idea he was doing school. He's like, no, I want to do Encanto. It's like, okay, we'll do Encanto. We won't do school.
Clever mommy. And what's really captivating me is that all our children are unique and unrepeatable. And like your son, being able to open up to concepts through something that attracted his heart, this interest in currencies and how they work. We're offering access points on a lot of different kinds of levels for our students to attach to the topic. And then what other things, because they've had an experience in a lot of different ways and through different senses and experiences, how much more will then be attached to their memory around that topic because there was a strong access point that worked for them. So that really excites me because I feel like the topic becomes sticky.
This is true. This is true. It sticks in their memory. It really does.
Yeah. So what you're saying then is you can identify almost any topic for a unit study. How would you kind of recommend we begin? Like what kinds of topics should it be? Just things that our kids are interested in or places we want to lead them? How do you begin to identify a topic?
Either one. So, I don't know. You could pick anything. I have some examples of stuff. So if I picked like if you want them to learn about St. Francis, you can go into that could branch off into learning about Italy. That could branch off into doing copy work of the Canticle of St. Francis, right? That could branch off into so many different areas. I mean, animals, right? So learning about the different early orders of the church, Nice. So if you really want to weave in the saints are we're kind of blessed in that way in Catholicism because We're enriched with the senses in our faith when it comes to art. I mean, there's, there's no lacking for art. Saints from all over the world. So you can get it's not just Europe, South America. You can go with, of course, his name is escaping me right now. I'm thinking of a saint from Peru.
Martin de Porres?
Yes, thank you.
Love him.
Martin de Porres. We have Saint Bakita in the Sudan and Africa. We have saints, all over in Asia, everywhere, America. So it's so easy to weave them into our unit studies, Even they're all from different centuries. So you can do history. What is going on during that time, when we're doing American history, let's say it's a certain, I don't know, you could pick during the time of Ellis Island or immigration or the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, who are saints from that time? Because, usually everything is just, like I said, initially in their own boxes. So you don't make those connections. And sometimes you're like, oh, wow, that person actually was living during that time. You don't realize that this person was a contemporary of that person because they're okay, this is religion and this is history and the two shall not meet, But no. You put them together, Yeah.
It makes so much sense, too, because once you just touch into a person and you ask, as you said, what were the times like that formed this person?
Exactly.
What would art, music, food, the landscape, what was the population? Exactly. Now you're out into numbers and all those things. How would he have been educated? What kinds of famous quotes do we remember from him? And so on and so forth. What are the practices of the church around the saint? Like, it really does become incredibly rich. Yes. We're going to do a lot more on this topic, everybody. Don't go away. We're going to take a quick sponsor break, and then we'll be right back with Jaydalia Dunne and looking at how and why to put together unit studies. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Walter Crawford.
And I'm Maureen Wittmann.
We are the co-founders of homeschoolconnections.com and proud sponsors of the Homeschooling Saints podcast,
which is here to help you homeschool more joyfully, more easily, and more effectively.
We want to thank you for listening.
And we invite you to check out our courses at homeschoolconnections.com.
And now, back to our program.
All right, we're back with Jaydalia Dunne, and we're talking about how and why to create unit studies. And this is so much fun, Jay. Really just kind of sparks your imagination, gives you so much freedom. So would you take us through some steps of just putting one together right from scratch?
Right. We can think of, if it's hard to, it's very overwhelming, like, you can go into so many different avenues, so many different ways. But a way to simplify it and also kind of a brainstorming, so just think of like different categories. Just think of the subjects, right? So we can have art, math, science, literature, music, food. Now, all of those do not have to be covered. It's just a way of brainstorming, all right? And then just think of a topic. It could be something that your child is very interested in. Maybe a historical figure, a country, whatever it is, or something
what
that
occurs
you want to
me,
lead them. Sure.
Jay, is that in our area here on Long Island, there's a rich history of whaling. Like, you could build out from that their art, the stories, the songs, the places, the techniques, the literature, Moby Dick, for older kids or whatever that might be. There's just like your imagination starts to run wild. Like, what would be meaningful to this child? The kid might love spiders or dogs. And wow, you could connect that out a million different ways, different breeds and where they originated or whatever it might be. Yeah. So I love this, that you've got categories for brainstorming and just going deep to get your ideas out. That's so helpful.
Exactly. So, for example, with whaling or the sea in general, or sea animals, you can find, depending on how old they are, books that have to do with that in the library, right? With whales in general. Do a trip to the aquarium, you know. Art. There's tons of art out there by prolific, especially American painters that have to do with the sea. You can bring that in and have them study it, and just art appreciation. We can find poems that reference marine life, and that could be their copy work. Maybe that's more inspiring to them because they're already interested in marine life, you know. So
Yeah.
those are like some different ways that we can do unit studies around whaling or the sea, or incorporate Long Island. I mean, that area is very rich with history, even during the Revolutionary period. Bring that in, boats, all sorts of things. Yeah, and you just like map it out and maybe focus on one thing a day, you know.
Yeah. And
that would
it
be
occurs
great.
to me, too, that some families will do a trip to Old Williamsburg in the summertime or to Gettysburg or some place that they've been studying so they can physicalize it for their kids. Around here, we have a whaling museum. We actually, there are tall ships sometimes that are in New York and the seaports, things like that. We can kind of look around us for what are the rich opportunities. I like that idea a lot. I know you love travel in foreign countries.
Yeah.
Just curious, have you ever taken your family to a foreign country that you're studying, or studied a foreign country because you're going somewhere, or even a place in the U.S.?
The last time I took my family, when my oldest was very young, we went to Spain, went to Gibraltar, and a day trip to Morocco because it's very close to Gibraltar.
Nice.
Yeah, I did do a study abroad in Spain, so I was very familiar with that country. But I would study any place, any country, and I could weave that into like a unit studies for my kids if they're interested. I know my youngest for a while was really fascinated with France because we read Madeline. You know the story about Madeline, right?
We
were reading
loved those books. Are you kidding?
I was like, okay, I could do a whole study, unit study on France because he loved the book Madeline. So we read the book Madeline.
Great story.
And we did copy work from the book. There's rhyming in that book, which is very great, especially for young. He was 5 at the time, you know, so he did copy work for that. And Madeline in the story, in the original Madeline story, you know, she did have like appendicitis or something like that. So we went into learning about that. That was like science. Then he learned about the major organs of the body. Learned about the landmarks of Paris. All right. And to this day, he's like, oh, you promised me a trip to the Eiffel Tower. I know. Bought macarons, the cookies, right?
Yum.
Yeah, so we did a lot around that just because he was very sparked by that book.
So good. What fun.
Learned some French phrases. My daughter studies French more, but learned some French phrases, how to count and things like that. So,
It's so playful. It's very intentional, and it requires that you work and think and get everything lined up, right? But there's a playful quality to it. We always want our kids to love learning. So once you've gotten your ideas brainstormed out, you said you go to the library, you start pulling books. What else do you do to build it out?
I look online I like crafts. So I try to find like simple crafts that the children can do, right, for their age group. For example, when we're learning about Australia, we made boomerangs from cardboard, right? And I was able to buy this printed paper. There's certain, it's called dot art. That is like Aboriginal. You would know it if you saw it. It's like the kind of decorator's decorative scheme or pattern that's associated with the Aboriginal people there.
Nice.
Right? And so we decorate their boomerangs with that paper. We also did our own kind of dot art using Q-tips and paint, and so they would mimic it. We've also used that trick with the Q-tips and paint when we're studying pointillism. French artists like Seurat, right?
Nice.
Like, let's paint our own pointillism, and we do that too. I do like to do the artists. We did that a lot when my daughter was really into art when she was younger. So the unit studies, it was focused more. Now it's more in countries because of my son's interest. When she was younger, she was really into art, and so we do that. Like Jackson Pollock, he would splash paint. He was like more of a modern artist.
Yeah,
so
I can see the kids really liking that.
Don't do this in your house. Go outside with like the big, that blue tarp that you use when you want to paint inside your house. Put that down in the grass. Have them put their paper on that, and have them like flick paint. It actually comes out. Modern art's kind of easy to mimic. It came out kind of nice. Once you frame anything, it looks fancy. Wow. So then we framed her. We framed her like Jackson Pollock imitation. And he would name his things like Lavender Number 5. Da, da, da. So we did like a play on that.
He gets it, right? He knows the art world. He's so ready for the world.
So we do things like that, like playful things like that, and even with that, like what he was from the 50s. So you could do a whole Americana 1950s type of unit studies with that even also.
Wow.
But
that's
yeah,
a really
like the
intriguing
Australia
one.
thing, we did the dot art. That was a lot of fun. And I replicated that with my co-op. Sometimes I do it with my kids first, and then I go to co-op and then do it like, they're kind of like the guinea pigs.
Yes, exactly. Here, let me experiment on you.
Yes, let's see how long this will take, or this book if I read it. So, oh yes, I do have a didgeridoo. Am I even saying that correctly? I always struggle with the pronunciation of that. It's that instrument, the Aboriginal instrument. That makes that kind of a throaty sound. It's like a deep throaty sound.
Ooh.
And so it's like a simple wood instrument, but it's very hard to blow into. So I brought that in to my classroom to see. I bought it for my son, who was really interested in that and trying to blow into that. And but I had them listen to the music, how it's really supposed to sound. Like I bring the computer in, have them listen to that. They'll learn about Uluru, which is Mount Ayers Rock, which is the English translation of it. Ayers Rock, which is out in the outback of Australia. The coral reef. Oh, that's a whole other science thing you could do.
Yeah,
whole other science thing.
Great white sharks.
Exactly. So, yeah,
nice.
There's a lot you can do with just one topic. Just to weave it in if they're interested in something, and like, oh, I don't like science, or I don't like this. Find the topic that they're interested in, and you weave it in.
Wonderful.
It's kind of like, they don't want to take their medicine, and so you put sugar with it. A little bit like that. There's like something sweet, you hide it in something like they like to eat. Yeah.
I also think, and maybe you can tell me if this has happened in your home or in your co-op. Maybe the kids get to a point where they've done some unit studies and we bring them in the brainstorming phase so that we're teaching them to think, how does everything connect? Have you ever seen the kids want to jump in and go, well, what about this, Mom?
Yeah, they'll come up with something like, could we do this or that? Or, oh, this reminds me of, definitely. I'm like, oh, sure. We can incorporate that or do that,
Yeah. Teaching them to think so creatively. So we're hearing kind of the fun, the connectivity, even some of the fruits in terms of their memory and their engagement. What are some typical challenges with unit studies? Where can we expect to maybe encounter some struggles?
Like you said, it's very intentional. So it's not, okay, here's an open and go curriculum.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, I'm sure, life happens, we get busy, we have other obligations sometimes, someone has a confirmation, someone has a wedding, so sometimes we do have to, don't beat up yourself about it. We can't just create something from scratch all of the time. It is time consuming. I will say that.
Yes.
So it is intentional, something you would prepare ahead of time. Me, if it's something I really like, it doesn't seem like work, and I'm like, it's just what I like to do, but I can see it being the preparation being time consuming, especially like for my co-op, and I'm doing it for several children, not just like my small little, family or whatever. It is the prep can be time consuming because you don't have forever. You have like more of a finite, like an hour or whatever to do it. So that is the number one challenge, I think.
Yeah. So thinking it through in this intentional space of is this for my family to spend a month in, or am I creating a 1-hour unit study for our co-op? That's a really different thinking process. But
yes, it is.
As you said, it's topic, brainstorming, selecting, the preparation, and then stepping in with intention. That's so good. What are some of the rewards that you've seen in your home, in your co-op? What are the kids feeding back to you, or parents reporting about responses?
Oh, yeah. They're like, want to take it again, this class again next semester, with different countries or different topics. Definitely. You definitely have like funny moments, and it does stick with them. Like, even if they'll always ask, what are we going to eat? What are we going to try today? Because tasting something, they like that of a different culture or different thing, and sometimes it's not always something that you like, but that's okay, because that is part of the education. Now, you can always say you've tried Vegemite, and no, I don't like it either. But I can always say that I know what Vegemite tastes like. We can laugh about it, like,
I almost feel like you could
pastry.
Oh yeah, I'd rather have that too. You could also have a discussion of, okay, you're at your English friend's home and they serve you Vegemite. How do you get through that politely and be thankful for, what I mean? Like, I feel like you could have so many conversations around someone going, gross.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah, so much
it's
fun.
Great. Yeah. And when they create something like a craft, they have that. They have that with them, Like, for example, like I was showing them when we're covering last year, Russia and Ukraine. I have like these
the nesting dolls. They're beautiful.
These actually at a Catholic like Polish fair, Our Lady of Czestochowa, which is not far from where I am.
Oh yeah, there's a beautiful shrine near you.
Yes. And so they have all these wonderful, beautiful handmade, like Eastern European crafts, right? And they went so well with this book that I had gotten about one of the little nesting dolls that got lost, but she finally found the way back with her family,
And that's the Littlest Matryoshka. Is that what it is?
Yes, it's such a cute. I was borrowing it from the library for years, and then I'm like, let me just buy it, because I was kept borrowing it from the library for each child that I had them come up,
Yeah.
And I ended up buying it. And then I shared it eventually with co-op last year. And so we did that. And then my co-teacher, she had an idea of like getting blank ones. And so they get to like decorate their own. This is done by my then like 4 or 5-year-olds. So when they're older, they can make them look more artistic.
Do you remember where she got those?
Okay. I think Amazon. They had like blank nesting wooden ones.
Wow, nice.
That's something you just keep with you. Yeah. Awesome craft, And I had a lap book for that country too. And I did a little lap book. They, they could fill it out just like they did for Spain. And they learned also about the, the Eastern architecture, Eastern architecture. Of the Eastern churches have different architecture and things like that. So
yeah, and for those of you not watching, the lap book is just a plain, inexpensive manila folder that has sort of cutouts, maybe,
little booklets, some of them are different, like accordion fold outs, or they make them, each booklet is a little bit different how it opens, just for the interest, just for variety, kind of like a pop-up book,
Yeah, and it looks like it takes a lot of thought to go into it to create it, but you're not filling in the answers for them. They're doing that part of it and personalizing
so they're
it.
doing so they're writing it out, they're researching, they're coloring it in, and all of that tactile motion, they're remembering it. My littlest ones can tell you like the capital and information about a bunch of countries. I didn't know, and I was interested in different countries and things. I didn't even know when I was younger, because when you use, instead of just sitting there and reading, which you can read to them too, obviously, but they're getting the information in different ways, and different ways.
And I feel like when they're young too, the acquisition of knowledge and openness to other cultures and people and frameworks is so much easier for them. They're not done baking, as my mother-in-law loves to say. And so you can keep adding ingredients. You can keep exciting them about the world and about each other. Now, you've given us some lovely things to put in the show notes, the homeschoolshare.com and kidsworldtravelguide.com. Would you tell us about those resources?
The Homeschool Share, I don't know who the maker of it, but wherever that is wonderful, because they have the templates for free of those little booklets that you see in the lap book.
Oh,
so the manila folders are easy. You just get them from anywhere, like Staples or whatever, and you can use boxing tape to expand them to make them as big as you want. And then you could just print those off there. And they have countries, but they have other topics too. They also have it for books. So like, Blueberries for Sal, any of the traditional read aloud books, there's going to be a lap book or something there on the website to kind of bring it alive, kind of make it more 3D for them,
Yeah, and you know what it sparks me is that for someone who's never made a lap book before, you could do some of their lap books and then you might find yourself itching to create your own. But it's almost like the way you start with a recipe and then you tweak it.
I did that too. Yeah. Especially sometimes you think of extra things that somebody else didn't think of. Like, there's more information about this topic that I want to make a lap book, for this topic or that topic. Definitely. Yeah.
And I feel like the mother and father's interest too can feed in, because that's part of our treasure that we give our children is our own perspective and experience.
Yes. And you were asking me like, do the children ever think of something they want to add? And that just reminded me when we're doing the one with Ukraine and Russia, my son, my 11-year-old, was interested in, because here we have a lot of the Eastern, in Philadelphia area, little shops. They have like imported goods and things. And I had brought that into my class too, like little cookies or whatever, and it will have the writing. And they're like, my son was like, what is this writing? He wanted to learn Cyrillic. That was not included in the lap book, but we added that in. And that was his interest, to copy the alphabet, the Cyrillic alphabet, and then you can also learn about the Saint Cyril, like the monks who came up with the alphabet so they can have a written language.
Oh my goodness.
So how you just weave things together.
Did your kids want to create their own alphabets? I could just see like certain kids I know would have run with that. Oh, they made up their own? Got it.
Right. Come up with their own language. Yes.
I'll be the
Yeah.
next Tolkien. So tell us about Kids World Travel Guide. Is that just what it sounds like, or is it a way of bringing kids to the world?
It's just a nice reference. It's hard sometimes to find geography references for younger kids. It's easier if you're older,
Mm-hmm.
But that one I felt was just very tangible and just little nuggets information, and for most of the countries in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh, this is so much fun. I had no idea it was going to be so much fun. I actually never did unit studies. I was more out of the box in some ways, but also just pulling and learning from other moms the whole way. Everybody, we're going to get Jay's final thoughts, but you can reach her at jaydunne18@gmail.com. I'll have that in the show notes, jaydunne18@gmail.com. Jay, what would you like to leave us with? What's your kind of final thought on this topic for us, just for today, even though we know it's a massive topic?
Okay. My final thought, it's not so much just with unit studies. It's just homeschooling in general. Don't worry so much about meeting a certain exterior expectation. Sometimes we get caught up in that, like, oh, what should a 10-year-old know, or what should a 16-year-old be doing? It's not to say not to have any goals, but not to get bogged down. It's okay to be interest driven. It's okay to just because something is fun doesn't mean that it's not. I think sometimes in society we feel that if you're enjoying it, then it must not be that worthwhile or not be valuable, as if something has to feel like real work or unenjoyable for it to be kind of like profitable. And that's not it. Just if they're enjoying it doesn't mean that they're not learning. It's quite the opposite. Okay, it doesn't have to be drudgery, like write this sentence 150 times, or it doesn't. It does not have to be. Learning can be enjoyable, and if something's enjoyable, it does mean that they are learning. If that makes any sense.
It sure does.
Yeah, learning does not have to be drudgery. It doesn't have to be.
That's right. They're going to do enough tough things. They still have to help clean the house and do all the things.
Yes.
And at some point, to pass their SATs, if they're college bound, they're going to have to learn certain things. But you're right. You're laying this foundation, creating an environment for learning that's much more joy filled. And we want our children to remember the joy of family life and faith, and to give that freedom to be joyful. I feel like it's kind of, it's our secret sauce as homeschoolers.
Yeah. Even if they're older, I know I've been focusing on the younger kids, like my high schooler, when we read the play, I think it was Antigone. And you would think like, oh my goodness, that sounds just like terrible and boring, right? Because this Greek play, what? No, we had so much fun taking turns reading different parts. And we also made, like the Greek masks. They would, back in the ancient times, they'd wear masks during the play. We made our own. We find, if you Google these things, they will come up. Like how to make a craft of a Greek mask. And we blew up a balloon, and we did the plaster of Paris over the balloon to make it, to hold it, because it's like a cast. And we did those things. You take a regular, those cheap clay pots you get in the spring to plant in, the little cheap ones.
Yeah.
We take it and you practice the geometric Greek designs, and you can just, doll that up so nicely. And it looks like Greek pottery.
Nice.
Just do it with a Sharpie and that, and you can seal it with a spray, and then this sticks with you. It sticks with you.
That's right. They're having beautiful, as you said. Yeah. Gosh, it's amazing how creative you can get.
Oh, yeah.
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 Well, Jay, it has been such a joy. Would love to have you come back again. We're wrapping up season 4 as of this episode. And what a lovely way to step into summertime and all the possibilities. It makes me think about so much of the easy kind of freewheeling summer learning that is possible with the change of weather and all of that. So thank you. This has been a great conversation.
Planting season, my favorite season, spring.
Oh, nice.
Germinating the seeds.
There you go. Science and so much that can be sketching and all of that, the nature study. Yeah, we love to launch out into the world with our kids, don't we? As homeschoolers, we have that freedom. All right.
Definitely.
Well, God bless you and your family for a great summer. Everybody have a wonderful break. We'll be back in just a couple of months. Of course, there's undoubtedly so many episodes to catch up on. So do dip into our past episodes, and we're looking forward, Jay, to having you back again. Everybody, thanks for listening. We'll be back again very soon. God bless you. Please pray for us. We're praying for you too. Bye now. And that's our show for today. Our program is sponsored by homeschoolconnections.com. Be sure to subscribe to Homeschooling Saints and leave us an honest review. God bless you, and thank you for joining us.